Let's start with the big story of the morning. Dwayne Holmes rejoining the club. How pleased are you that the deal's got over the line?
Very important to add one player more to the squad, especially one of the midfielders, because knowing that we don't have correlating in the middle of the pitch was very important for us to add one player who can give you the option to play as a 10, who can give you the option to play as an 8-2, and at the same time, who can give you eventually the option to play or as 11 in the left side or as a 7 on the right side. When you don't have many players in one squad, it's very important to have versatility in the play that you have.
And are you aiming with Dwayne then just to try him out in various positions, like you said, or do you have a specific role in mind? Is he there to replace Eiting?
I think it's a player that the first idea with him is to give the option to play in the middle. We know that in the middle we have now Vallejo because Hoggy's injury. We have O'Brien in the middle too. We have Bacuna too. And he's going to be there. I hope we continue having the same players after the next game, because Pritchard is on doubts to the game. He couldn't complete the normal training today. So we are going to have now 3 players, and he can give the 4th option in the middle of the pitch, making that Bacuna can play in one of the sides, or he can be a first 11 player directly in one of the sides. Can be important to play on the right, on the left, and continue playing with the 3 midfielders that we are playing until now.
Does that suggest then Dwayne's in contention for tomorrow night, or is it a little bit too early?
No, he couldn't complete the training today. He was today the signing of the contract, and he will start to training tomorrow by himself to fix everything that he needs to fix from the medical point of view and be ready to training after the game.
And going into tomorrow's game, you mentioned Alex Pritchard there, any other fresh injury concerns or any updates on those who have been out the last few weeks?
Unfortunately, Danny Ward cannot be with the team. When we changed him after the game, he started to feel something in the calf. In the calf, he started to feel like painful, and the pain the next day after the game, the pain was higher, and they start to work with him, and we will have him after the game of Stoke City.
A difficult run of results since the turn of the year, Carlos. What's the mood been like around the training ground with yourself and the players?
With myself, it's perfect because I know that the results can be in you can get any type of results. Of course, when you are winning, we cannot say that you enjoy more, but it's more pleasure for you that you are getting the results. And when we are not winning, we need to show our character. I think the character of the players, the character of the coaches have to be, not only when everything is perfect, this is easy to show the character, but I think our character, our attitude, and our professional need to appear in the moment when the situation or with the numbers are not the numbers that we wanted to achieve.
Do you feel with tomorrow's game, it was originally scheduled for Sunday, you've had that little bit of an extra break? Do you think that'll be a boost for your team?
I think it's important to be working with the players. Unfortunately, we couldn't, like I told you, we couldn't work with Holmes until the next days. We are not going to come to work with him. Then we were working with the player that we have. It was important to work with players like Rolando Anos because he couldn't complete any week of work with the first 11 players until this week. So it was important to add some minutes between them in terms of improve the relation that we need to show in the pitch.
Over the course of the weekend with no game, were the players in for extra sessions, or did you allow them a little bit of respite? How did the weekend go?
We did a normal week because we rest the next day after the game. And after we have the option to work 4 consecutive days to prepare this important game.
On Wednesday against Millwall, your side only created 1 shot on target. Is that something you've been working on, trying to find that cutting edge again this week?
Yes, it's very important to improve the level in our attack because we know that when the team, I think in the Millwall game, everything was very well for the idea that Millwall arrived to Huddersfield to play the game because they scored very fast in one situation that we have all the conditions to avoid because for me it was the second ball in one set pieces that we need to just to make more concentrate in our functions. And after this, they were defending the goal with 10 players. I think that making difficult the target to create the chance, and at the same time make difficult the target for them to create any chance. But as they have the goal in front, it's easy for them to just be happy being defending the spaces, being compact with 10 players in defensive half. We had the penalty. We missed the penalty. One option that for me can change the game because can make the game more open and move them to try to attack you more with the option to give you more spaces. It wasn't like this. And we didn't know how to attack better to can break the last line, to can create more options, but it was what we needed. But we know that it demands some level and some try to behaviors that are not easy to do.
In terms of you said about then Millwall getting the early goal and they were happy to put 10 men behind the ball. How difficult is it when you're trying to attack to break down sides like that once they have the lead?
It's more difficult to attack 10 players than to attack 9 players. It's more difficult to attack 9 players than to attack 8 players, and you go little by little like this. And always it's more difficult to attack in less spaces when these spaces are full of opponents. It's easier to attack with open spaces and less opponents, or with more spaces and less opponents. But if we don't prepare ourselves to attack this type of structures or this type of strategies of the opponent, we are going to be more weakness. So what we want is to develop any option that we need to develop to can attack any team with any strategy that can appear at the beginning of the game or during the game.
And you mentioned as well about the penalty. Oggy alluded to it after the Millwall game, and sorry to bring it back up, but that's 2 penalties this season and both been missed. Have you been working on that, and will Fraser get a chance to step up again, or are you going to rotate around the penalty takers? What goes through your head after that?
We continue working on this. We were preparing in this week. We did every single day. We finished on penalties. We have played that finished really well, but after you appear in the game and you don't know what can happen. If you analyze, for example, the last game in Spain of the King Cup of Spain, Barcelona was playing versus Cornellà. Cornellà is a team that is second division B in Spain, and Barcelona have top players like can be Pjanic or Dembélé, and both miss 1 penalty each one in that game versus one second division B team. So it doesn't mean any type of excuse. It means that the player who is taking the penalty need to take a lot of responsibility, knowing that this action is very important, and of course it's not easy. It's a mix of personality and it's a mix of the technical level of execution to put the ball where you need to put in the challenge that you have with the keeper.
After the game as well on Wednesday, you spoke briefly about Richard Keogh, who played on Wednesday night. What's it like having Richard's experience around the training camp the last week?
First of all, I think the improvement in this position was something necessary. We are going to extend the injury of Edmond Green is going to extend a little bit more, and he will be around 10 days more out of the team. So to cover this position was something that the team and the club needed. That's why we moved him here. I think in terms of the minutes that he was accumulating until he arrived to this point was very positive, because now he has the habit to play in a row, and this is very important when you add one player. And at the same time, in terms of experience, he's one player with a lot of experience in the championship. This is something that is very important for us in some moment. At the same time, to help this mix of a squad that we have with young players, and they need sometimes the experience close to them to give more confidence, to know how to solve different type of situation. And I think this mix is something that we need in the team.
And sticking on the defensive front, do you have a update on Chris Schindler, Richard Stearman and Naby Sarr?
No, Naby Sarr, yes. Naby Sarr was playing the other day and he can continue playing now. He was making the normal week, so it's very positive to can have him more time in the pitch and have the option to play with him. And Schindler or Stearman or Tommy Elphick, they continue making the medical work. We expect to don't have a Schindler and Stearman in the next 2 or 3 weeks, depending about how they continue in the evolution. Schindler, the progress of Schindler is very positive. The progress of Stearman is delaying a little bit. So I think we can have both players maybe close to at the same time in the next 3 weeks. Tommy Elphick is going to start in the next week to make some training with the group, maybe once or twice per week, and something positive too, because I know that for him was very hard to be long time out of the team. So in the next 3 weeks, I think we can add some central backs to the trainings. Maybe not for the game until the next 5 or 6 weeks, but yes, for the next training days.
Thank you. What have you made of Bristol City so far this season?
I think Bristol City is one team that they have, for me, a very strong squad with a lot of possibilities. Now they are in a moment where they lose some players because of the injuries. They have important players that they cannot play in this game. But I think the coach did a very good decision. He was really clever to play 4-4-2 in terms of the possibilities of the play that they have, because they didn't miss any of the strikers in the injuries. They have many options to play as strikers, and they are playing now with 2 first 11 strikers, and the other option that they have in the bench, for me, he could play 2 in the first 11 because they have 3 very good strikers. And at the same time, they have recovered the loan of Palmer, that now is in the team. They are playing with him in one of the sides. It allowed them to can attack the side and at the same time to give some freedom, because he was playing before as a playmaker and now he's playing more on the side. And I think they are making now one strong first 11 with 3 or 4 players that can help them in the bench. That's why I think it's a strong team that continue in the competition. They beat Millwall 0-3 in the last cup game. It shows that even having injuries, they have a strong squad that can be beating games in the cup or can be facing games in the cup and at the same time in the League Two. So I expect to play versus one very strong team, because they are a strong team, versus one team with 2 strikers and defending 4-4-2, and one dangerous team with the option that I told you, with the option of the 2 strikers, with the mobile movement of them, with the option of the wingers, especially with Palmer going inside, and with some players that can be important starting in the game or from the bench too.
I asked before the Watford game, going into that, you had previously beaten Watford, and how that changes your preparation or the mood around the training ground. Bristol City defeated Huddersfield at home earlier on in the season. Did that teach you anything about Bristol City? And if so, do you change the way you play in tomorrow's game?
I think we arrived to this game in totally different context. For example, when they were playing versus us, they were playing 5-3-2, and was the first time after they were losing in the game and we have the control of the game. They changed to 4-3-3. That was the first time that they were playing 4-3-3. They put Semedo in the pitch, and was one player that in that moment of the game he had a higher impact in the game, and that's why I think we conceded this defeat. That in 15 minutes of very good full of them, we couldn't stop them. Now I think they are in a total different moment. Every defeat have to teach you something. It's true. Have to teach you, first of all, the character, how you need to play the games from the first minute until the end. Have to teach you too that you cannot relax in any minute, and you need to be ready to beat the difficult moments that can appear in the game too. Something that is part of football. And at the same time, of course, when you play the second time with one team, you have the experience, the previous experience to have played with them in the first lap. And we are going to try to help to use this experience in the best way that can help us.
Thank you, Carlos. Best of luck for tomorrow evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Stephen, we'll throw it to you, please, mate.
Hi, Carlos. You mentioned Danny Ward, unfortunately, has another injury there. How long are we expecting him to be out?
I think we come back to the trainings after the Stoke game. So we are going to talk now around 1 week, more or less, in the time that he will recover in the normal training with the group.
It's frustrating for him, isn't it? He's not had much luck with injuries this season.
No doubt that the first one that is going to feel now the painful of the injury is him, because he's not having the consecutive the option to be consecutive days training with the group or consecutive days playing the games. So he's the first one that is suffering about the number of injuries that he's suffering.
Yeah, it's so you've got Fraser Campbell as your centre forward. How close is Kieran Phillips to getting into your starting lineup?
It's like to talk about the start lab is something. To be in the squad is another thing, and to be out of the squad is another thing. I think the work that we are doing, or the work that Phillips is doing by himself, is been a good job. That's why he's been part of the squad in a long time, like from he was out of the squad in the period that he had another injury. I said from the beginning that it's a player that we need to be very careful to don't have more injury, because he's showing a very good develop and very good improvement of his skills. So it's important to have him available all the time that we can have him. And now he's making a good job, and that's why he's moving to cover. And now he's the second striker that the team has. It's a high step for me, for him, for his development as a football player.
If I can ask you as well about Lewis O'Brien, he's won the Player of the Season last year. I think he's struggled to stay at that standard this season. What do you put that down to?
Sorry?
Lewis.
Yeah.
Go on, Steve, sorry.
Yeah, so Lewis won Player of the Season last year. I think his form has not been at that standard this season. Why is that?
I don't know exactly why it can be this. It's like, I know that O'Brien was very important player the last year, and I feel he's been very important player for us this year too. We try to move him in the higher level that we can move him. Sometimes the players are going to move in some moments where the stability or the accuracy is not the same level of accuracy of stability. Maybe the numbers of minutes that he was playing a row the last year were not the same number of minutes that he's playing right now. We need to continue thinking that he's a young player, but this is not going to be any type of excuse for him, because we are going to demand, he's going to be demanding himself more than anyone. And this is something very important that he brings in his character. And at the same time, the players, when they are making career, they are going to suffer some better moments and some worse moments. And to be to be an important football player means that you need to be ready to beat these type of moments and try to show and put your level in the higher point that you can put. At the same time, it's not the same when you play the games without any type of expectation, or when you start to play the game with some type of responsibility of expectation. So the players, when they are making a career, need to know how to control these different type of moments that they are going to live, and at the same time to continue improving and to continue growing as a players.
And similarly, we've seen Harry Toffolo was very creative and created a lot of chances the first half of the season. So the last 10 games, that's dropped off a bit. Is that down to just opposition analysts doing their job and identifying that strength on the left-hand side?
I think the first of all is like, when you are not creating all the chances, everything depends on you or your team. I think Toffolo is a player that is a very long left back. I think for him it's positive to have one right foot winger in front of him, because it allows him to take more time with the ball, and it allows him to arrive with the action, arrive with the ball. When you are playing with one left foot player in front of him, you know that usually if he's a specific left foot player, that can be Rolando Arons, he can try to unbalance him more and to win the space in behind more than Toffolo, and Toffolo need to make a different role, keeping more the balance maybe from the back, appeal more to surprise in some moments. And like I say, it's not the same sometimes to play. So in football, in the life, small changes can change a lot one context. So it's important that's why I told you to work in terms of improving the relation with him. I think Toffolo is one player that play with one right foot player in front of him will help him to arrive more times in attack. But at the same time, we need to adapt to the circumstances and possibilities that we have right now. Right now, the winger that we have in the left side, Rolando Arons, is a left foot player, and that's why we need to create a different type of relations, and we need to find our best level, maybe making different type of things, because of course Rolando Arons is one player that need to take a lot of responsibility in terms of the movement in behind, in terms of the crosses that maybe before Toffolo was doing, and Koroma was driving more in the middle and be looking more from finishing situations. But we always have the option to play with Bakuna as a left winger. We have the option to change now, because until today, or until this week, we didn't have Mbenza. Although the alternative is to play with Isaac Mbenza on the left side, who is a right foot player, but knowing at the same time that the best performance of Isaac Mbenza arrived playing on the right side. So we need to be mixing these things, because like we lost 18, we couldn't move Bakuna to playing as a left, because Bakuna was necessary to play in the middle. So you need to make a mix of all these things, trying to create the best level of the team, knowing that maybe the best level of the team is not the best level for one player, or is not going to help to move the level of one player in the higher level that he can move.
Has working on those kinds of new relationships been one of the focuses on the training grounds this week?
Yes, we will continue working the ideas and organization in defense, but at the same time with a lot of creating, first of all, one collective identity. Because if you are attacking, for example, versus 10 players, that for me, Watford is a team who defend 4-4-2. Even in our game, they were not attacking. They were attacking more than defending. In the other day, we had maybe the team with more possession of the ball of any game of the championship, attacking 10 players in the back of the ball. In the moment one player start to feel that the action have one target different than another player, the team is going to suffer the consequence of this, of don't have one clear collective identity. So this week was very important to try to improve in this collective identity, trying to make that every player who is in the pitch start to feel the game in the same way, and start to feel that the advantage are in the same way, start to be looking for one level of relation that help the team to attack better.
It's almost like a pre-season in that regard then, isn't it?
But necessary precision, because in the moment you change the player, you need to start to create new relation with the players. So of course, we know the same player who we start playing this league with the player that we have right now with the team. But this doesn't have to be any type of excuse. It's different players, different relation, different now new level of growing. And this is the demanding in our challenges.
I thought something that you missed in the Millwall game in particular was a player who was in the midfield who was going to dribble past people. That seems to be one of Dwayne Holmes' strengths. Is that something you're going to be asking him to do?
Yes, I think he has the option to receive in behind. He has the option to receive in front of opponents and with the dribbling beat opponent, because he's a player that feels comfortable with the ball. And for me, this is one of the strengths that he has, is the option to give us control pass in a safe conditions. He needs to be one aggressive player that help the team in the recoveries, and he needs to be one of the players with a lot of personality to give the team the option to attack, to have the ball, to eliminate opponents, to break lines. That are the concepts that always we are working.
And finally, there was some reports yesterday that Jaden Brown might be going out on loan to Scotland. Is there anything in that at all, or anything to say about that?
No, I think that there are different type of interests by different clubs in some of our players, but we need to be looking for the balance because I think the loans can help a lot the team, a lot the players to develop, but at the same time we need to find our balance, because it's important to have always two players who can play in one position, because in the moment you don't have one player, you need to have the replacement. We know that, for example, O'Brien is a player that can play as a left back too, because he did the last year, but at the same time it's important to have now O'Brien in the middle of the pitch. So that's why I think Brown is being one player that is not making many first 11 times, starting many times in the games. He did versus Bournemouth, he did in the cup game. He is playing more minutes arriving from the bench, sometimes playing more as a winger than as a left back, because Harry Toffolo now is one of the players that is playing, covering this position, but at the same time, we need to have the option always to have two players who can play in one position, because in the moment we don't have two players, we are going to be more weak.
Great stuff. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Leon, we'll pass to you now, please.
Thank you. Hello, Carlos. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I just wonder, your experienced players, Carlos, it's a time of the season when they're going to be particularly important, your experienced players.
I think it's important, yes, the experienced player, it's important the growing of the young players, and it's important the confidence and the self-demanding of the team too. So I think everything is important. The growing of the new players to arrive to this part of the year with some experience in the back of the first part of the league, and at the same time the experienced player who know how to manage different moments, because every team is going to pass for different moments during the year.
Yeah, and then so far this season, at difficult times of the season, your side has managed to produce a win, an important win, and it's the time of the season now where your team need to get another win on the board pretty quickly.
Always is important to add points, especially 3 points if you can, better than 1. If you cannot 3, 1. And always in any moment of the season, for me, it's very important to add points. But of course, we know that we didn't win in the last 3 games of the league.
Yeah.
That's why we go to all the league games with our maximum level of demandings, responsibility, confidence to try to get the points that we want.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Good luck.
Thanks, Leon. Gary, we'll throw to you, mate.
Hi, Carlos. You okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good, good. Can I just ask you about the January transfer window as a whole? This is your first January transfer window as a manager. As a manager, the guy making the decisions and everything, have you found it more hectic or more sort of condensed than perhaps you imagined, or is it everything you expected it to have been?
Well, I think this market sounds something similar to the summer market, but it's closer in the time, and you need to, maybe you don't have the same number of players. At the same time, you need players that can help you the team depend about the needs that you have. For some clubs, they don't have emergency and they can move players that without the same number of minutes. To some clubs, they don't have many young players and they can introduce some young players to give freshness and start to help them in the growing in the careers. Some clubs are going to have more players in the club, then they are going to need more experienced players. So I think everything always is how we analyze our squad and how we analyze our weaknesses points and how we need to make our squad strong, because it's something that we need to face, we need to analyze, and we need to do.
In the January transfer window, do you find yourself having to perhaps take 1 or 2 more risks over players than you would do in the summer, perhaps?
Sorry?
Would you take risks over certain players more in January than you would in the summer? Maybe players you want to bring in?
I think the risk that you can take depend about a lot of circumstances. It's like you have a lot of one budget that allow to make many risk, you can make more risk. If your budget is more concrete, you can make less risk. At the same time, depend about the idea of the club. If the idea of the club is to continue develop grown players to build them here in Huddersfield, you can take some players to help them in the develop. If your idea is like more as a short term and that's all, you are not going to bring some level of players, some different type of players. You are going to go and spend money in more expensive and experienced players. So everything depends about the context. But for me, the only important thing is analyze what is the team that you have, analyze what are your possibilities, and try to make the best decision in terms of your possibilities as a club and your needs as a squad.